Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the IELTS Plus English podcast. Today's topic, social media. Social media, interesting topic. Certainly, business-wise, it's been a huge part of my life over the last 7 or 8 years. I really enjoy it. You won't see me on certain platforms. You know, I'm not really doing Instagram nowadays. I'm not really on Facebook, but I do enjoy social media. And I think in some ways YouTube traditionally is not a social media platform, but it is going that way. There's more interaction. I consider it a social media platform because I'm really interacting with you through the podcast. I comment. I do social media posts within the YouTube platform. So yes, this world is evolving and yeah, I really enjoy it. So we're going to keep today's episode a bit simpler. Last episode, we had those 3 really high-level adverbs that we talked about using. I think that was great. But today, firstly, we've got a wonderful set of vocabulary. There are some hard words that are so topic specific. If you don't talk about social media, you might not use them. For example, moderator, analytics, hashtag, algorithm. These are things I think a lot about, especially on YouTube. So, of course, this vocabulary can be found in my textbook, the IELTS Plus Total Speaking Textbook, which is available for you at www.britplus.net. So go and check that out. And without further ado, let's get into today's topic, social media and part 1, question 1. Do you use social media? Which platforms do you use the most? I definitely use social media, but I have cut down my use. I used to use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as it used to be called, and then, of course, YouTube. Nowadays, I've really cut down to simplify things, and I just like interacting through YouTube, and it's become very clean. And although traditionally not considered a social media platform, I think nowadays we can. Next question. What do you usually post on social media? Of course, having a podcast, I predominantly post episodes of my podcast. I do images related to the podcast, maybe text announcements related to the podcast. So everything really revolves around this podcast now. In my private life, I don't post anything. I don't have anything against social media, just I'm not a big fan of sharing images of my private life. Okay, there you go. Let's move on to part 2. So it's going to be an interesting one today because as I just mentioned there, I'm not a fan of using social media for my private life. I know probably 99% of you will use social media to post some nice food, on vacation, something like that. I just don't do it. Perhaps a bit of laziness on my part. How about you? Let me know in the comments. I am curious, actually. I'm curious, simply, do you use social media to post your private lives? And if so, what kind of things do you post? Let me know. I'd like to know kind of what percentage of listeners do post on social media. So let me know in YouTube comments or Spotify comments, and I'll check that out. Next, we move on to part 2. So let's get the 2 minutes ready. And today's question is, describe a social media platform you use. Okay, so pretty simple. I think I will take a bit of a different approach to this. I keep talking about YouTube. So I'll talk about Instagram because I feel like that might be quite helpful for you listeners if I talk about Instagram. So I'm going to talk as if I'm still really posting on Instagram like I used to do. So let's see how that goes. 2 minutes starts now. I'd like to tell you about Instagram. About 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago, I really started using Instagram a lot for my business. I studied. I tried to learn the best ways to interact with people on the platform. I learned how to take pictures. I learned how to edit pictures and make various posts. And it was a lot of fun. I had to go through quite a lot of training, courses. I took courses in order to learn the best way to write hashtags, how to follow the algorithm and allow the algorithm to share my content to a wide audience. It was a really fascinating process. So let me tell you a little more about Instagram. A huge part of Instagram is understanding what is trending. The trends are so important on Instagram. And then trying to follow that so that Instagram will spread you to the widest audience possible. One thing you can do, and this is what I had to learn, is you can analyze the analytics. You can look at the analytics of a post, which gives you kind of the background information. Who's looking at the post? What country are they from? How old are they? And that allows you to know how to tailor future posts. And then, hopefully, your content will appear in the feed and go viral. That's the ultimate goal. For me personally, that aspect of social media is fun. It's almost like a game. The more I study and the better I do, the more interesting I make a post, Okay, well, let me just finish that sentence because it was an open thought there. I would have said, the more people I can reach and the more my channel can grow. So, that was true. Everything I said was true, though, as you know, I'm not using Instagram nowadays. It's not a platform that you can really get hold of me. But in case you're curious, there is an Instagram platform. I haven't deleted anything, and there's loads of IELTS tips and vocabulary and content on there if you're interested. Let's move on to part 3. What are the benefits and drawbacks of using social media for businesses? I think the primary benefit for using social media for businesses is that you can reach a larger audience. Not only reach a larger audience, but find your niche. What I mean by that is you can find the exact person who wants your service or product, because you can study the analytics and tailor your post to a certain audience. The drawback, the main drawback of using social media is that it can be very inconsistent. So you can go viral and then get a huge amount of demand. And then within a few days, social media, whichever platform, just totally stops sharing your content and it's over. You don't have any demand. So very inconsistent. Next question. Do you think social media influences people's opinions? I have no doubt that social media influences people's opinions. The way it does this is you have a feed which shows content that the social media, the algorithm actually thinks you will find interesting. And so the algorithm will certainly push you in certain directions, politically, but definitely politically, and just, your opinions about society. If it thinks you have a certain way of thinking, it will push you further in that direction, deeper. So I think nowadays, because of social media, people are getting stronger opinions. The opinions are being reinforced by the algorithm. That was an interesting answer, actually, because I think there was too much stuttering and a few too many pauses But I would say outside of that, it was a pretty good answer because I used some nice vocabulary and gave some nice depth. So I'm not too unhappy with that, despite stuttering. My last question of today is, what measures can be taken to protect privacy on social media? I think that for the most part, privacy is protected by the user. There are various things you can do, but most importantly, primarily, the user has to be responsible, and therefore we can educate users on how to protect their privacy. An example of this is my daughter, who is 5. So she's not close to using social media, but at some point she will. And one of the most important things I can do as a parent is teach her how to use social media responsibly and not share too much of her personal information. One other thing I would add to that is that in social media groups or certain platforms, you can have moderators, and they play a vital role in making sure content is clean and appropriate. Great. Okay, I think I'm not sure, but looking back on that podcast, it was packed full with very topic-specific vocabulary. So do pay attention to that. We had last week, I gave you some really nice general use vocabulary, but if you're looking to build your social media language, this episode gave you some nice high-level language. And that is everything I have for you today. And next week, wow, definitely something I can relate to, stress. So we are in the S portion of my curriculum. In case you haven't noticed, the episodes follow alphabetical order. So we had seasons, smartphones, social media, and now we're moving on to stress. And that's everything I have for you today. So study incredibly hard this week, and I'll see you next Monday to talk about stress.